I kind of have an underlying belief that any problem is solvable. And I know that's not really true. Like someone who has like a terminal illness would not want to hear me say that. And that's, there's instances where there isn't a solution, right? But I'm just saying 90 something percent of problems, I think there actually is a solution out there. If you're really willing to like go to the ends of the earth to find it and do whatever it takes. And so I'm willing to do that, essentially. And because and it's all kind of in the spirit of living an optimal life, and always just waking up and taking things to the next level, each day. That's kind of what excites me. I go on vacation and I'm bored because I'm like, we're not leveling up, I'm just sitting on the beach. But then if I have like an epiphany about my business sitting by the swimming pool, I'm like, okay, today was productive then.
Welcome to the EQ Gangster podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you.
Brian! What's up, man?
How's it going?
Bro, I'm totally, what's the word? Fangirling out, man. I'm talking to the big cheese, bro. Dude, I cannot thank you enough, bro, for your book and the awesome skinny. I've still got a couple chapters left. And it dude, I've got notes, I got comments, I got all kinds of, I'm loving all the,
wow.
just all your skinny, man, is I mean, you what's funny, Brian, is like you not to sound cheesy, but you nailed your, like, dude, you are in my being, right? You are like, I'm like, but that is how you nailed it, right? It's when you know me as good or better than I do. It's like it's every page is like, oh, I love how hungry you are as an entrepreneur, where you've done, like, all the guys that I've read, you went the next step and you've done coaching programs with these guys. Brandon Bouchard, you nailed off like 3 or 4. I'm like, oh, yep, I read that guy's book. I read that guy's book. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I've done coaching programs with all these guys. I'm like, oh my, like, anyway, dude, I'm so excited, bro. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, bro. Tell me
Brendan
about
Burchard is really cool, by the way. Like he's like the most humble, down to earth dude like you've ever met. Like you wouldn't
Is he
think
really?
he was Brendan. He's just like super present. You can see like a glow in his eyes, and he like after 3 full days of a seminar where he's leading thousands of people, he's like there talking to me, and it's as if we were the only 2 people in the room. It's
Wow.
He's definitely a special dude.
Of all your coaching programs, was he the most impactful, or what do you think?
Man, no, it's probably like my personal coach, David Foster, the guy that wrote the foreword to the book.
Okay.
He's just a really good all-around coach, and we worked one-on-one for so many years that I'd have to give him the most credit.
Okay.
But I definitely want to join another mastermind like with Brendan if he opens something like that back up. Maybe we can both join it. It was cool. It was like $2,000 a month, and you got to go to 2 live events per year and like a group of 100 people to hang out with him. And Dean Graziosi was the other guy at the time. You also got a monthly Zoom call with him and some other stuff. I felt like it was well worth it, but I think they kind of wound it down for a little while. So anyways.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you, man, for letting me interview you, and just, this time. I really appreciate it. So let me ask you this. So obviously I read your book, and for those of you all, that'll be watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. So I'm sitting down with the author of Nail Your Niche: The 7 Ingredients of a 6-Figure Online Coaching Business, Brian Ellwood, author of Fire Yourself. For the listeners who have not had the opportunity to read your book yet, can you share that journey of you becoming an entrepreneur?
Sure, man. Thanks for having me on. And my name is Brian Ellwood. I, grew up in Tennessee. I went to the University of Tennessee. I graduated, got a job in corporate America, and I was there for about 3 years. Was really unhappy, and I knew I needed to sort of find a way to pay the bills, a different way. And I quit the job and I go work at a grocery store making like $8 an hour. But it kind of gave me some mental space to figure out what was next. And that's where I met a guy who flipped houses, and he taught me how to find deals for him. And he would pay me $1,000 as like a referral fee if I found him a deal. And while working at the grocery store, I was like sending letters to ugly houses, and my phone would ring. I'd run to the bathroom and take the calls. And I remember this lady was like, I want 70,000 for my house. Cause this was back in like 2011 when that was the normal price of a old house in Nashville. And I'd be like, yeah, I think we can do that. And then I turned it over to him. He bought the house and he met me for lunch, slid the check across the table for $1,000. That was actually the biggest paycheck I had ever gotten. At one time, it had a comma on it. I was like, wow, I'm so rich. And so I quit the grocery store and I go to find deals for him full time. Only found him like 7 more deals that year. So I made like 8 grand that year. But I learned so much about real estate. And then I ended up starting my own flipping business. We grew it to doing like over 100 deals a year. And we had 8 employees. And I bought a few dozen rental properties. That's obviously over the course of probably 7 years, right? So I'm talking, but I achieved like the proverbial financial freedom. And then I was kind of like, okay, I don't really know if I want to keep setting more goals around money, because I have like the money I feel like is to buy you lifestyle, right? And I had the lifestyle. And so I shut down the flipping arm of our business, kept the rental properties. I'd always wanted to be a teacher, even as early as I can remember. I just loved teaching, helping people. Original goal was to be a college professor, but I changed my mind when I figured out, how much money they make and how hard they have to work, curriculum. And so I decided, well, I'm going to teach what I know now, which is real estate investing. So for about 5 years, I coached other people on how to buy rental properties. My specialty is kind of like I live in Denver, as you know, up the street from you or up the way from you. But the houses I buy are like Tennessee, Alabama, where you can get cheap houses, Arkansas. So I have like a long distance kind of investing strategy that I've developed. And I taught that to hundreds of students over 5 years. Helped a lot of people, quit their jobs. Some of my clients now have like 30 houses, and even one of them's got his own real estate coaching program. Um, and that was really fun. And then I sort of lost my passion for real estate. I was just kind of burned out on it, but I fell in love with the online education industry through the process. Like the entire time I was helping people with real estate, all I'm worried about is funnels and webinars and copywriting and, figuring out my niche and all the other stuff. I'm going to all these seminars, and everything's based around online marketing, digital, that whole world, coaching, consulting. And so then I pivoted to helping people start online coaching businesses, because that's what I was a lot more passionate about. And that's what I had really been drinking from the fire hose on, in terms of the subject matter over the last 5 years that I was coaching real estate. And so, and I wrote that book to kind of package up everything I've learned in I've spent so much money to work with all these coaches and stuff, which is how we linked up, because you got the book, as you said. And yeah, and that's essentially what I do today, and really, even though I help people with online coaching, my mission is to just help everybody live the most optimal life that they can, in every area. So having a fulfilling career, being healthy, being happy, being more productive, having the right mindset. I see myself doing a lot of that type of stuff, over the course of my career. But right now I'm kind of in the online education space.
Thank you for sharing all that, Brian. And something that was really fascinating. Have you read Strengths Finder 2.0?
No,
No,
no, I'm
okay,
familiar with it though.
but you've heard of it, yeah. So
Mhm.
what's what's fascinating is I have been studying the Strengths Finder concept for many years, and it seems like what's fascinating are your strengths. I love seeing your strengths pop out throughout your journey, your entrepreneurial journey, because like you're like, okay, you okay, I didn't like the corporate America gig, so now I need some mental space. Let me go work at the grocery store, which is a whole nother. I mean, that's amazing just by itself. I don't know that a lot of people would make that decision, right? And then it's like, okay, hey, this guy, hey, can you find me some deals? Yeah, no sweat. I'm gonna find you some deals. And then okay, so boom, you started, but then you got into the whole real estate, and then you started like you're a learner, like a hardcore learner is what it seems like. And it also seems like you've got, so one of the terms in the emotional intelligence space is called emotional agility. It seems like you don't get super married to an idea as much. Like you have this just fascinating mix of strengths. Have you always been able to be emotionally agile, or have you always been able to pivot? Like, okay, like even your coaching, like, okay, I was done with this kind of aspect of real estate, but let me do some coaching of the real estate, and now let me, like, you have all these pivots in your life. Have
Mhm.
you always been good at that? How did you get good at that?
Man, that's a great question. I don't know if I'm good at anything. It's just that, like, if I start something and I burn out on it, it kind of feels like being in like a bad relationship, but like trying to make it work anyways, or just something you're super tired of. Like if you tried like CrossFit or something, you went away from jujitsu, you do it for 3 months, you'd be like, all right, I'm ready to put the gi back on, right? And so I've always tried to honor like what my heart is telling me to do. And I've caught a lot of slack for that, because it's like, even like, what do you think my wife thinks, and I'm changing my entire plan every year. Like I'll go to the coffee shop and she's like, what'd you work on? I'd be like, I was working on my vision. She's like, you don't know your vision yet? I'm like, well, it's always changing. Um, and so that's the challenge, right? Is because we know that if you stick with something consistently for years and years, you'll probably get the most gain. But a lot of people talk about that in terms of like financial. Like if I had just stayed in that house flipping business and that's all I was doing, I would have been in it for, over like 15 years at this point, and I'd probably be massively successful at that one thing, but I wouldn't be happy. And so the challenge for me is to you know make enough money but also follow my heart. And I was diagnosed with all the ADDs and ADHDs when I was younger, took all the pills for that and stuff. And even like yesterday, I went and worked at a nice hotel, the Gaylord of the Rockies in Denver, and I was there for like 2 3 hours, but I changed seats like at least 4 times. Right? It's like I sit somewhere and I'm like, all right, I'm getting tired of this. Go find a new couch. Go somewhere else. Go somewhere else. So I definitely have like squirrel brain real bad. And so we can talk about that if you want, but that's something I've always been battling with, is trying to stay with something long enough to where it's going to bear some fruit, like buy some rental properties and then keep those and then move and write this book, so that way it's out there, and then get this course selling and then move on to this thing. And I've learned that I need to sort of productize myself. In other words, like I need to leave things in my path that will continue to serve and help me grow my business, but also like support that changing of interests that I always have.
Fascinating. So I always tell people that I like invented ADD and ADHD. I'm like the OG of all that stuff before it was a thing. Okay, so you said a couple of different things that were really neat. So you try to follow your heart, and then the whole dynamic of like, okay, man, this is starting to feel like a bad relationship. I need to pivot. I need to adjust. I need to, in the military, so you need to adjust fire. In order to do that, though, so here's another, bringing in a little emotional intelligence, and it takes self-awareness to know what your heart is feeling. Like, okay, man, this is not feeling right, or okay,
Mhm.
I've kind of got the real estate game down. Like, let me try this. Let me try the real estate coaching, or let me try the online education space, or let me,
Mhm.
have you always been self-aware? How did you develop your self-awareness?
You mentioned Brendan Burchard earlier, and when I first took, well, I bought one of his courses like back in 2015 or so, and I was trying to figure out the expert industry. Um, and he talked about like, how do you know what you're passionate about, or how do you know what you should do? And I actually didn't know at that time because it was just many years of like corporate America. And I think if there's anyone out there that feels like they've lost touch with their passions, I can tell you what helped me find it. It was the exercises that he shared, which were like, it's actually simple. It's just like, what kind of stuff do you love to talk about where you're geeking out and you're talking someone's head off? Or, what podcasts do you listen to? What YouTube videos do you watch? What do you do in your free time on a Saturday when nobody's watching? What are you naturally drawn towards? And so for me, I don't know if it's emotional awareness as much as it is just, or maybe that is what it is, but to me, it's just like just identifying what I'm being pulled towards in that sense. Like what's currently exciting me, and then trying to make that the kind of the basis of what I do.
Got it. So, do you feel like learning is one of those things that you always enjoy? It just seems to be a theme throughout your book is like you just have this insatiable appetite to learn.
Mhm.
And okay, man, I don't know about this. Like, okay, let me learn about this. I don't know about this. Oh, let me learn about it, right? And you even take it the next step. Oh, you even said it. You get wisdom, you acquire wisdom, and then you apply wisdom. Like that's been right, something like that.
Yep, that's kind of been the pattern in my life, is learning something and then applying it to my own life, and then if it works, I really want to share it with other people.
That was it.
Learning, applying, sharing, and it all roots back to problems that I've had in my own life. You know, like being unhealthy and figuring about eating a more nutritious diet, and then wanting to tell lots of people about that. I've done this over and over. And I feel like that's kind of a lot of people's story too. It might be yours as well, right? It's like you had some challenges, you overcame them, and then something inspired you to start this podcast. Not everybody has that third step. Like we all know someone who is real successful. They've solved their own problems, but they have never taught anything to anyone else. They don't give advice, they don't write books, they don't start podcasts. But some of us feel the need to, you know, have to take this extra step. I don't know why, and share. And I do. I really have that bursting desire to solve problems. I kind of have an underlying belief that any problem is solvable. And I know that's not really true. Like someone who has like a terminal illness would not want to hear me say that. And that's, there's instances where there isn't a solution, right? But I'm just saying 90 something percent of problems, I think there actually is a solution out there if you're really willing to like go to the ends of the earth to find it and do whatever it takes. And so I'm willing to do that, essentially. And because and it's all kind of in the spirit of living an optimal life, and always just waking up and taking things to the next level, each day. That's kind of what excites me. I go on vacation and I'm bored because I'm like, we're not leveling up, I'm just sitting on the beach. But then if I have like an epiphany about my business sitting by the swimming pool, I'm like, okay, today was productive then, and maybe it's unhealthy that I need to improve, all the time. I've wondered that often, but that's just how I'm wired for sure.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm very much the same way. Learning is like crack to me. It's almost an addiction. Like I
Yeah.
that maybe sounds weird or whatever, but like like honestly, that's one of the reasons why I love coaching. And again, I'm wanting to level up my coaching business. I was telling you before earlier and stuff as well, and take it to the next level. But like one of the selfish reasons that I love coaching and podcasting is because I'm learning. I get to learn from the clients that I'm working with. They may say, "Well, yeah, but aren't you coaching your?" Yeah, I'm coaching them, but I'm also like, oh man, like they a lot of them have more self awareness or emotional intelligence than I do, and so I'm just maybe asking some questions that they may have never thought of before, but it's helping. I'm making connections too, right? And then being able to interview people that know more than I do, like, oh man, okay, right? So like, it's for me, and that's another reason why I really resonated with your story and your book is because you have this, and again, addiction may not be the right word, but you have this passion, this hunger to learn and grow and change, and that is so huge in my life too. Like so much so that even the people that I spend time with, if you're not growth minded, if you are not growing yourself in some way, there's a really good chance we are not hanging out.
Yeah.
Cause there's nothing to talk about, right? With some for me, if you know, but dude, like you, I could talk to you for 10 hours, right? Because it's like, oh, what are you learning, or what did you learn last week, or what did you learn in your relationship, or what did you learn in business, what
Yeah.
marketing, right? Like, there's never ending with you and me, right? With someone that's growth minded. Okay, how have you developed your tenacity?
I don't know actually. I wasn't always super driven. When I was growing up, my dad was a hard worker, and I kind of did the thing where you respond oppositely, and you're just like, I'm going to be as lazy as possible because I don't want to be like him. I'm going to rebel. And then something clicked around my late 20s. And part of it was meeting my now wife, who's amazing, and not wanting to be a bum. And I was just like, I just changed and I became really driven. And I don't actually know what causes that, man. Do you know who Alex Hormozy is?
I don't.
Okay, well, he's a successful entrepreneur. He has a really good YouTube channel, podcast. He's super success. He wrote a book called $100 million Offers that everybody's raving about in the education space right now about offer creation. It's so good. I'm actually going through it for the second time now. But he talks about um, his drive comes from somewhat of an unhealthy place. Like, I don't know if he says it's like insecurity or something like that, but I wonder sometimes if all of this is healthy. Just being totally honest. Like, can I wake up and be more at peace with how my life is and who I am today, instead of needing to like read for 2 hours to add more wisdom to my brain or whatever? Is this an addiction, like you said? So I don't want to act like I'm like special just because I'm very driven, and I'm better than everyone, because sometimes I admire the dude who's just like super at peace and sleeps really good every night, and isn't always trying to go take things to the next level. But I am this way, and I really don't know why, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But that's that's all I can say about that.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, that's good, Brian. So for me, I will tell you. So for the so for the majority of my life, I've been a hardcore. So I've been emotionally needy, emotionally codependent, toxic positivity, people pleaser addict, imposter syndrome, insecure. Like, name the emotional dysfunction, and I had it for most of my life. And financially independent at age 30, spoke to thousands of people all over the world for 15 years. All these things, right?
Wow.
Went to West Point and Airborne Ranger, in the 82nd Airborne Division and all these different things. And again, up until 4 years ago, had no idea that all of that was due to my people pleasing addiction.
Hmm.
I was just trying to get validation. I wanted Brian to say, "Oh man, Noble, wow, you're a great guy," or what something. I was seeking approval and affirmation and validation from everyone else around me, which again, I didn't even know I was doing it until I started to get emotionally healthier. I'm not saying I'm emotionally healthy now, but I'm emotionally healthier after 4 years every day working on it. And it's been life changing for me. So now I feel like I can learn, grow, and change and be an entrepreneur at a sustainable pace rather than how I used to be of, well, Brian, I'm only sleeping 2 hours a night because I'm working so hard. You know what I mean? This entrepreneur hustle culture of like, well, I'm working harder than you are, and you just don't. I don't remember last time I had a good night's sleep because I'm working so hard. No, now I can pursue wisdom and knowledge and grow my business and stuff from a much healthier place emotionally, where I'm not trying to seek validation or approval from Brian, right, or from Susie or from Bob, or you know what I mean. So it's a but what I've realized is being an EQ coach, leadership coach, how many of us have been successful or are successful, whatever that means, for unhealthy reasons,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Lot of people.
Is it okay if I ask you a question?
Please.
What was the key to that, making that switch for you to achieving from an emotionally healthy place? I'd love to hear a little more about that.
Yeah. So great question. So three things happened around the same time, but all unrelated. One is my daughter was 10 at the time. She's 14 now, about to be 15. So she was 10 at the time. We were having a family conversation, me, my wife, and my daughter. It was raining. We had a sunlight, a sun uh, light in our living big 2-story living room area. We're having this family conversation. It just turned dark. The rain drops out of nowhere, so it's pouring down rain. All of a sudden, my 10-year-old daughter goes from 0 to a 10 emotionally, like almost like we hit her, and
Wow.
we're just having a conversation. And I was like, what on earth is happening right now? Well, because of my low EQ, I immediately went to a 10, and not even know, like, I, so 1 second we're having a nice conversation. The next second she's at a 10, screaming bloody murder. The next second I go to a 10, and by God's grace, man, I walked into my bedroom, locked the door, and was freaking out, sitting on the edge of my bed because I went from Bruce Banner to Incredible Hulk in point 0.3 seconds, and I was terrified about what could have happened. I could have hit my daughter. I could have hit my wife. I could have, because I lost complete control. Thank God I went into my bedroom and locked myself in the bedroom. Wife came in a few minutes later. She said, Noble, she said, once I calmed him down, she stood in the corner of the bedroom until I calmed down. Once I calmed down, back to Bruce Banner, she said, Noble, do you realize that you can behave differently than how you feel? And I laughed at her. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's impossible. She said, no, Noble, that's impossible for you, but I can do it. And there's a lot of other people that can behave different than how they feel. And at the time, it blew my mind. I'm like, that's impossible. Like, I had no frame of reference for that. Like, so that's one thing, that whole experience. The second thing was, I was in this business cult for 20 years, 20 some years. That's a whole nother story, another
Cult.
business cult.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over a beer. Well, that's a whole nother,
Okay.
another chat. So was in a business cult. So financial independent, age 30, in this business cult, spoke all over the world, thousands of people over this business cult. And we had this narcissist who was on our business team. Now, I didn't know what narcissism was at the time because I was emotionally clueless. But this guy started to, and he was on our business team. So he started to mistreat all these people on our team. And at the time, I enabled his behavior because I'm like, no, he means well. He's just got a strong personality. Like, no, dude, this guy is a knucklehead. I'm like, oh no, I would enable and empower him. Then he started treating me poorly. I'm like, oh snap. Okay, now I see what you guys are saying. This is something that I didn't have any words for it, but I'm like, this does not feel right. This is not, I don't know the words, but like, I'm not liking this here, bro. That was a whole big giant, turned into a whole big giant thing. That's the second thing that happened.
Hmm.
The third thing that happened was I yelled at my wife 3 times in 3 weeks after 20 years of marriage. And she says three things. Number one, don't ever do that again. Number two, you've never done that before, which means number three, you got more issues than Sports Illustrated. Went to counseling. The counselor introduced me to two revolutionary new concepts called feelings and emotions. And I was like, what? What are feelings and emotions? And it 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 really upset me. Well, so it did two big emotions. One, I was angry because I've read hundreds, if not thousands, of books on leadership and personal development. I've been reading books and growing myself for 2, 3 decades now. And I'm like, I have been reading hundreds and thousands of books on leadership and personal development, and I have never heard anything about feelings and emotions as it relates to leadership. So I was pissed. The
Yeah.
second emotion I was feeling is I was terrified because I didn't speak the language of emotions. I didn't even know the ABCs of emotions. And okay, what like I locked all those feelings and emotions in my emotional basement decades ago. I don't I don't know that I want to know what's in the basement, right? What am I going to find in the basement? So anyway, all that is what led me to this, again, like you, this very intentional. I'm pissed that I don't know this stuff. And I do love people. Now, at the time, it was emotionally unhealthy because I was emotionally needy, people pleaser addict. But like, I need to start learning about this stuff, these emotions and feelings, whatever that means at the time, and see what's the, even though I was pissed and terrified, let me see what the impact is. And after 2 years of a very intentional emotional fitness program, all these areas of my life started to change and improve for the better. My marriage, my faith, my finances, my fitness, my parenting, all the big rocks started to change. My business. And I told my wife, I'm like, babe, has all this been because I've been emotionally dysfunctional this whole time? Like, and now because I'm starting to grow and change and heal in my emotions, like all these other areas are changing. And she's like, yeah, dude. So I'm like, babe, I got to start a podcast, just sharing the junk in my trunk and the lessons that I'm learning, because maybe it'll help somebody else out. Because I can't be the only emotionally clueless guy out there. And the rest was history.
Wow. That's awesome, man. So you kind of hit a breaking point and it was getting into, it was affecting your family and you said that's enough. And you kind of did what we talked about. You know, you had a problem and you solved it for yourself. And now you're sharing what you learned. It's beautiful.
That's yes, that's exactly right. That's been the journey, the learn, apply, and share. Like you said,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. So you said teaching has been a theme for you. So learning has been a theme for you. Teaching has been a theme for you. What has been some of the toughest lessons that you have learned about your own emotional growth journey?
Unpack a little bit what you mean by emotional growth journey.
Sure. So every entrepreneur journey, in fact, there's a book called The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster. And what it's by Darren Hardy, which I'm sure you probably heard of
Oh
him.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I love him. Yeah.
100%. I totally dig him too. So every entrepreneur has this emotional roller coaster, right? Like, hey, we're killing it. Oh crap, I lost, my clients. Oh, we're killing it. Oh, right. It's this emotional journey. What have been what have been some of the toughest lessons that you've had to learn or overcome in your own journey?
Oh man, one of them was like, so in the house flipping business that we had, we did this method called wholesaling, which is like you get a property under contract and then you assign it to another buyer and you make a spread or whatever. And it's legal, but it's in this ethically gray area. Okay. And sometimes people get fined for it or whatever. And somebody that was involved in one of our transactions wasn't happy about it and alerted the local news station. And all of a sudden, I was like walking my dog, and I get back to my house, and there's like, the news van and the cameras out front, and they're like running up to me with a microphone, like, are you, ripping people off? Are you operating without a broker's license? And I just like turned and went in the house real fast and didn't say anything. And I'm in the house, my heart's pounding. I'm like, I'm screwed. And that one experience, and then it was on the news, right? And like everybody that knew me, family, everybody thinks I'm like a scam artist now because you know how they can spin anything, right? Um, and that was like 10 years ago or something, but it's still like, bothers me a little bit when I think about it, because uh, I just set out to like try to make some money and try to, flip some houses. I never intended to harm people in any way. Like, not that I was, but just that perception like really bothered me because I wanted to do the opposite. I wanted to help people. Um, and that experience, it seemed really bad at the time. Like emotionally, it was just really heavy. I was just like, just beat down by it every single day. Like, I can't believe this happened. Um, but the irony is that is what kind of pushed me in the direction of doing what I do now. It's like, well, I want to be helping people. I don't know why I've somehow ended up in this weird place, or, I'm getting the perception that I'm a bad person or whatever. And so that was like kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I went to my business partner. I was like, I'm not into this anymore. And so I'm not sure if that's the answer you were looking for, but it's like that came to my mind when you told me about it, asked about a challenging moment. And, in hindsight, I don't know where I would be had that not happened, because it kind of pushed me towards what I really want to be doing with my life. So, you know, out of the darkness comes the dawn, out of that things got a lot better, after the negative period passed.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. And okay, so using that, so I'm gonna call that a valley. Okay, so that was maybe a valley time for you.
Okay.
Do you have a system or a series of questions that you ask yourself in a valley to maximize that valley and to learn and grow from that valley?
I don't think so. One exercise that's helped me a lot is just always wondering, or always kind of coming back to what my ideal lifestyle is. And, this idea of like, what would one perfect day in your life look like? You'd wake up, you do this and that and that and that, and having like a clear vision of that and working towards achieving it. Um, but I think you're asking for more of like a system to create internal growth or reflection when those moments happen. I don't think I have that. No.
Yeah, okay, okay. No, that's fine. I'm just curious, just with as big of a learner as you are. That's kind of one of the phases that I'm in right now. I just did a few podcast episodes on it is, because we, in life, we have our ups and downs, and before I would try to run away from those valleys, those low points in life. And now the phase I'm in right now is trying to learn, use my valleys as a professor, not as a monster that I'm afraid
Mm.
of, but as okay, how, like 4 years ago when I went to counseling, my counselor asked me, "Hey, how you doing today?" No, I'm like, "Oh, I'm sucking like a Kirby vacuum. I'm doing terrible." Right? I'm like, "Hey, can you give me 3 steps to get out of my valley?" And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "What do you mean why?" I'm like, "I want to get out of this valley." He's like, "Why?" Because I want to get out of the valley. He's like, "Why do you want to get out of the valley?" I'm like, because it's a valley. Right? I'm like, I'm not picking up what you're putting down, bro. And he's like, no, but what if God's trying to teach you something in the valley and you leave that valley before you learn the lesson? And I'm like, my head exploded again. Another one of those like,
Yeah, that's good.
what? Right. And so he's like, dude, why don't you just learn from it instead? Why not? Why run from it? Why not learn from it? I'm like, it just again blew my mind. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is really trying to learn like in jujitsu, right? In jujitsu, because I'm bigger than 98% of the people, I'm 6'1" and 260 right now. I'm bigger than most people in the gym, and I always start in the weaker positions, right? So they can start in mount or side control or back mount or whatever. I don't care where they start from. I've been doing that for four and a half years now, starting in uncomfortable positions. So now I don't care who it is. I don't care how big they are. They can start in whatever they position they want to. I've been doing it for 4.5 years in uncomfortable positions. So I am completely comfortable in uncomfortable positions. I'm trying
Nice.
to apply that principle in my life as well. And like, okay, I'm in a valley. Let me look around with a flashlight in the darkness and learn. Oh, there's a little opening there. Okay, there's a little cave there. Oh, there's a wall there. Right? What can I learn from this? How can I grow and not just
Mm.
run? Anyway,
So it's, Brendan Burchard once said that he tries to do something uncomfortable every day, because that he knows that that's where he's going to experience growth. Anywhere you're not comfortable is an area like where you have room to grow. So it almost sounds like you're reframing the way you look at a valley. Like the valley is where the magic happens. When you're at the peak, you're actually your growth is kind of stagnant. Would you say that's
a-
accurate?
absolutely, for sure.
So you want to stay in the valley, just like in the jujitsu position, you want to stay in the valleys as much as possible.
That's
That's
right.
a cool way to look at it for sure.
Yeah, no, thank you, bro. Thank you. So what are you okay, so love your quality of life thought because that still is a great system or idea that you use, a mental muscle or mental exercise that you use. Okay, what's my ideal day look like? My perfect day look like?
Hmm.
Where you're at now with so many different entrepreneurial endeavors and you've had tons of success in your life, you're an author multiple times. What after all those life experiences, what does bring you joy and significance and fulfillment today?
The first thing that came to my mind when you said that was, when my daughter runs up to me and gives me a hug. She's almost 2, and she's like the center of our world right now. I get emotional just talking about her sometimes. But aside from that, like, and going to like the kickboxing Muay Thai classes, like we talked about, getting good workouts in, it's learning, man, and creating. So let's say I go to the coffee shop and I spend an hour and a half like reading a book and just geeking out on learning some new stuff. And then I flip open the laptop and I write for an hour and a half on my next book or whatever. Those two, then I got to learn and I got to exercise my own creativity in some way. That's what lights me up more than anything. I feel like I had a real good day when I do those things, along with exercising and spending time with the ones that I love.
That's great. Love that. What legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think I just want to, one reason I got into writing is because I was thinking that like books are something that can kind of live on. I read books that were written by people that are dead now, sometimes. And so it's like those can actually continue to help people. And so really it's just, I just hope that anyone who sort of experiences me either in person, like my family and friends, or through like some work I've created, just want them to their life to be improved because of it in some way. It could be their health, it could be their money, it could be their business or whatever. But it seems like a lot of people kind of struggle, like I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I was like, how did we create this system that convinced everybody to like get in their car, go to work at 9 a.m. and come back at 5 on the same day? I was like, this is the only reason we have traffic. Why does it all have to be at the same time? And even Tim Ferriss, like, he's like, when did we all agree to this? And people are like, they don't know about like the stuff about emotional intelligence, or they don't know how to handle money, or they don't know what to eat, or like how to start a business. And as a result, they just don't have as good of an overall quality of life. And I just believe that people deserve more, they deserve better. And so if I'm going to go and put all this time into digging up better ways to live, better strategies, then I want to just somehow package that up and share it with people. And then they can improve their situation and have an easier time with things. I guess that's it.
That's great. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan. Also, he's talking about a master learner, right? He would be somebody that I would say is a master
He
learner,
really is. Yeah.
right?
He's
He's
a human guinea pig, like, for whatever.
Yes, yes, absolutely. One of my favorite books of his is the 4 Hour Work Week. Uh, which I absolutely, that's he's got tons of stuff, tons of great
Yeah.
content out there. Okay, how do we find you? How do we follow you? How do we connect with you?
Yeah. I would say I'm trying to work on growing my YouTube channel. It's still really small. But you can just search Brian Ellwood and you should find it. I don't think there's any other Brian Ellwoods with 2 L's. You can grab the book on Amazon if you're any kind of online coach, consultant, expert, podcaster, YouTuber. If you are or want to be in that vein, you can grab the Kindle version for like $9 or $10 or whatever, and check that out. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Yeah. So Nail Your Niche again is the book that connected me with Brian. It is an excellent book, and again, I've read a zillion books. He's got a lot of great mindset stuff. He's got a lot of great story stuff of his own story, and he's got a ton of great practical stuff, right? Because at the end of the day, for an entrepreneur, it's got to have teeth in it. It's got to have some practical stuff, and he's got a great balance of all of it. It's easy read with some phenomenal. Again, the other thing too that I love about one of the reasons I dig you, Brian, is you have a great way, kind of like Tim Ferriss, a great way. All these lessons you have learned, you have figured out a great way to synthesize those lessons for the next person, right? So for me, for your readers, for your audience, which I tremendously appreciate as somebody who is also passionate about learning. There is a gift and a skill in being able to communicate those lessons, share those lessons in a way that's receivable, right? Your teacher gift, right? Your love of teaching, and but it's definitely comes through in your book, man. And again, I can't thank you enough for your time, not only here uh, with us now, but also in your book and stuff as well, man. Thank you so much, brother, for all that you do for the rest of us entrepreneurs and stuff.
You got it, man. Thank you so much for reading the book and for having me on today. I'm super grateful for you and to learn more. I listened to a couple episodes of your podcast earlier today to kind of get familiar with it. It's really good content, and so you guys should be leaving some 5-star reviews if you haven't already. But yeah, thank you for everything you're contributing to the movement as well.